Of course, we are a full-service hospice company here in Charlottesville. And I'm just going to kind of give you the nuts and bolts of hospice, and then Kim was going to kind of do more on Gentle Shepherd as a company. Hospice is usually decided by a physician. That physician gives an order because he thinks that patient has typically 6 months or less to live. Now, of course, that's a guesstimate with even physicians. They're doing their best to make a determination on how long they think the patient has. Often patients live much longer than the physician thought, and most times they live longer when they're on hospice care, just because it's a coordinated effort and they're getting more care at home or wherever they live than they have before, because they're having, getting better disease management. So they typically live longer on hospice than they would if they did not have hospice. One of the myths about hospice is that it was for cancer. You had to have cancer to be in hospice. And we're seeing all kinds of disease states now. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of end-stage Alzheimer's and dementia. And, more and more people, unfortunately, are contracting that in earlier and earlier ages. We're seeing it in the 40s now. Which is terrifying. And so, we also see end-stage cardiacs, people with breathing difficulties, COPD, just anything you can imagine can qualify for hospice if it's in the latter stages. A hospice team consists of a lot of folks. It starts with medical directors who are doctors. Our local physician here for Gentle Shepherd is Andy McFarland, who's affiliated with Martha. It's also nurse practitioners. Medicare kind of made rules that you had to have nurse practitioners on board a couple of years ago, and it's really been a fantastic addition to that team because they do face-to-face with all the patients at certain intervals of their hospice care. They're also there for consults, and they're also involved in our weekly team meetings. We have registered nurses. They're the case managers for each patient, so they manage everything for that patient. Certified nursing assistants, and they go in and do the activities of daily living, brushing the teeth, bathing, combing the hair, the little extra things like painting nails and putting on makeup for our ladies. Social workers, and they coordinate other services that might be needed in the home. Families might be struggling with meals. So, we'll try to get Meals on Wheels in. They might need some other caregiving services. So, we might call another agency like Home Instead or someone else to be able to come in and provide that help. Chaplains. Chaplains provide spiritual care to our patients if they want that. There's a bereavement team that actually follows up with our families for 12 months after the passing of their loved one. So they're actually, calling, going to see, how you doing. If they're not coping well with that loss, our company will pay for professional counseling services for that person. We also provide a camp in the summertime called Camp Braveheart, and that's for the children who have lost loved ones. That is led by a lady out in Roanoke who has certification in dealing with children of loss. And they go for a week, and they just, they learn techniques about how to get through that. They get to interact with other children who have experienced losses, and it's just a wonderful time. We usually send a couple of our social work staff to help with that, and they always come back with wonderful stories, tear-jerkers oftentimes. We will provide funding for kids who can't afford to go to that camp, and it's not just for children of our hospice. It's for any area that we serve. So it's not just for our folks. Patients are teamed weekly, which basically means everybody comes together in a room, doctors, nurses, CNAs, social workers, and they talk about what's best for this patient. Because that's really the only way to do the best thing, is to get everybody's input. What are you seeing? A CNA might see something one day that the nurse didn't see. They might hear something that the nurse didn't hear. So they all join together to do what's best for this patient. The hospice experience is directed by the patient and their families. We don't tell them what we want them to do. They tell us. This is a very intimate time in people's lives, as you can imagine. And so we just feel honored and privileged that we're able to come in. So we asked them, what do you want from this experience? You know, if you're in pain, would you rather have some pain and be alert? Or would you rather be as pain-free as we can get you and not be alert? That's their decision to make. Do you want a chaplain to come in? They may say, no, I don't want that service. Do you want a social worker? I'd rather not. They might even say they don't want the CNA. The nurse is the only thing that Medicare requirements say that has to go in to be part of a hospice service. So they can decline everything but that nurse. I think one of the other myths that hospice providers often get, and that's that we're going to speed that process. Okay, we're going to come in and we're going to push the morphine and we're going to move them right along. That is not true. We want nothing like that. We want them to have quality for the rest of their lives, however long that might be. So that is our goal, to give quality to the time left. Because let's face it, quality is often more important than quantity, especially in these folks' lives at that point. We do accept all types of payment, Medicare, Medicaid, and most private insurances. It's typically 100% coverage, like Nancy said, typically no out-of-pocket expense for hospice care, which is great. General Shepherd actually will not deny someone who is hospice appropriate but does not have the ability to pay. So if they have no insurance, no funds, we will still take them on as a patient if they meet the criteria. We're 24/7. We get a call on Saturday night at 10 o'clock and say, we need you there quick, we're going to go. And that's kind of one of the unfortunate things about hospice is it comes really late, almost too late. And I think, you know, doctors are presenting it to their patients and families, but let's face it, they hear that word and they think, okay, this is it. I'm on the way out. And oftentimes they kind of push that off. And so we get those calls literally in the 11th hour, and we'll get a text that says, hurry. They're actively dying, and we're kind of swooping in to try to do what we can in sometimes an hour. And that's not the ideal situation. We want to get in there, establish relationships with people and their families, and that's when they get the best experience. General Shepherd Hospice came about 18 years ago in Roanoke. It's privately owned and operated by Dawn and Kim Eckenroth. They are still involved in the company. Kim still sees patients. She does a lot of the training for our hospice nurses and CNAs. And they have locations in Roanoke, Lynchburg, Charlottesville, and we're getting ready to open a Harrisonburg location. They're wonderful folks. Their goal is to take care of people. And they love on people. They don't just take care of them. And we think that's the most important thing. Yes, they need clinical expertise. They need management of medications and symptoms. But they need a lot of love at that point in their lives, and so do their families. And oftentimes we're doing more for the families than we are for the patients. The patients have accepted what's going to happen. They know what the process is, and it's the families that are really struggling with what's happening. And so we can come in again with social workers and people that are experts to help them get through that.